December 3, 1943, 14:20 hours, Stalag Luft 3, Eastern Germany. Oberleutnant Friedrich Hartmann stood in the interrogation room of the prisoner of war camp, holding a photograph that had been confiscated from a newly captured American B-17 crew member. The black and white image showed something that contradicted everything the Luftwaffe intelligence officer had been taught about industrial warfare. A production line stretching into the distance, massive four-engine bombers in various stages of assembly, and operating the riveting guns, welding torches, and hydraulic presses, women, dozens of them, hundreds of them. Hartmann had initially dismissed it as propaganda, but over the following months, as more American air crews were shot down and interrogated, the same impossible story emerged again and again. The flying fortresses raining destruction on German cities, the very aircraft requiring 400,000 individual parts, 13,000 separate components, and precision engineering that German factories struggled to maintain with their most skilled male workers, were being built primarily by American housewives, secretaries, and shopgirls who had never held a wrench before 1942. The psychological impact of this revelation would prove almost as devastating to German morale as the bombs themselves. This is the story of how American women transformed themselves into an unstoppable industrial army, and why German military leadership could never fully comprehend the social revolution that would help destroy the Third Reich. The transformation had begun on December 8, 1941, the day after Pearl Harbor, though its full implications wouldn't become apparent until Boeing's Seattle plants reached full war production 18 months later. On that December morning, the Boeing Aircraft Company employed 28,000 workers building B-17 flying fortresses at a rate of 15 aircraft per month. By December 1943, employment had exploded to 45,000 workers, producing 362 B-17s monthly. The revolution wasn't in the numbers alone, it was in who was building them. Before the war, Boeing's workforce had been 98% male, with women restricted to secretarial positions and fabric work on control surfaces. The company's hiring policies, standard across American heavy industry, explicitly stated that precision metalwork, hydraulic systems, and electrical assembly required male workers due to the technical complexity and physical demands. Plant managers at Boeing Field considered this an immutable law of industrial production. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor had shattered that assumption within weeks. As male workers left for military service, Boeing faced an existential crisis. The Army Air Forces had ordered 3,000 B-17s for delivery by the end of 1943, but the company was losing 300 experienced workers monthly to military conscription. Traditional recruiting from the male labor pool couldn't replace them. Those men were already employed in other essential war industries or joining the armed forces. The solution came from necessity rather than ideology. On January 15, 1942, Boeing opened its first women's training school at Plant 2 in Seattle. The initial class of 47 women, aged 19 to 54, began an 8-week course in aircraft assembly. Company engineers had designed the program expecting high failure rates and planning to assign graduates only to simple repetitive tasks. What happened instead forced Boeing to completely revise its understanding of industrial capability. The first graduating class in March 1942 showed aptitude scores matching or exceeding male workers in technical comprehension, quality control, and production speed. Ruth Anderson, a former elementary school teacher from Tacoma, exemplified the transformation. Her personnel file, now preserved in the Boeing archives, documents her journey from training class to lead woman, supervising a 30-person crew installing oxygen systems, work requiring precise calibration and intimate knowledge of high-altitude physiology. Her supervisor's evaluation from November 1942 stated, Anderson's crew maintains zero-defect rate on oxygen system installation. Technical knowledge exceeds previous male leadmen. Recommend for advanced training on electrical systems. The training program expanded rapidly. By June 1942, Boeing operated 5 training schools enrolling 500 women weekly. The curriculum had evolved from basic assembly to specialized technical fields. Women learned to read engineering blueprints with hundreds of specifications, operate precision measuring instruments accurate to 1,000th of an inch, install hydraulic systems operating at 1,500 pounds per square inch, wire electrical systems with 150 miles of cable per aircraft, and rivet aluminum skins requiring exact spacing and pressure. Dorothy Hughes, age 23, had been working as a department store clerk in Portland when she enrolled in Boeing's training program in April 1942. Her aptitude test revealed exceptional spatial reasoning and fine motor control. By September, she was installing the Norden bomb sight, one of America's most closely guarded military secrets, a precision optical instrument with 2,000 moving parts requiring micrometer-level accuracy. The technical complexity of B-17 construction made the women's achievements even more remarkable. Each flying fortress required 47 separate major assemblies, from the nose section with its bombardier station to the tail gunner's position. The wing sections alone involved 36,000 individual rivets, each requiring precise spacing, depth, and pressure. The 4 Wright 1820 Cyclone engines demanded expert installation of ignition systems, fuel delivery, and cooling mechanisms. German intelligence officers studying captured American aircraft couldn't reconcile the production quality with their understanding of who was building them. Luftwaffe technical reports from late 1942 noted the consistent high quality of American bombers, attributing it to America's advanced machine tools and automated production systems. The possibility that semi-skilled female workers were performing precision assembly never appeared in their analysis. By December 1942, women comprised 47% of Boeing's workforce. At the company's massive Plant 2 facility covering 1.8 million square feet, entire assembly sections were staffed exclusively by women. The final assembly building, stretching nearly a quarter-mile in length, featured production lines where women working in coordinated teams could complete a B-17 fuselage in 18 days, a process that had taken 35 days with the previous all-male crews. The statistical evidence documented in War Production Board reports revealed the magnitude of the transformation. Women were outperforming previous production benchmarks across nearly every metric. Quality control rejection rates had decreased by 23%. Assembly time per aircraft had decreased by 31%. Workplace safety incidents had decreased by 19%. Production output per worker hour had increased by 28%. What the statistics couldn't capture was the psychological revolution occurring on the factory floor. Women who had never considered technical work were mastering complex engineering tasks. The social transformation was creating an industrial force that German military planners, operating from their assumptions about women's capabilities and proper social roles, could neither understand nor counter.
The first documented German encounter with the reality of American female industrial workers came on August 17, 1943, during the disastrous Schweinfurt-Regensburg raid. Luftwaffe fighters shot down 36 B-17s that day, and among the captured American air crews was Technical Sergeant James Mitchell, a waist gunner from the 381st Bombardment Group. During his interrogation at Dulag Luft, the Luftwaffe's main interrogation center near Frankfurt, Mitchell mentioned casually that his aircraft had been built by the girls in Seattle. His interrogator, Hauptmann Werner Schroeder, a veteran intelligence officer who had studied at Cambridge before the war, initially assumed this was deliberate misinformation designed to mislead German industrial intelligence. Schroeder's interrogation report, discovered in captured Luftwaffe archives after the war, documented his skepticism. Prisoner claims his aircraft was manufactured primarily by female workers. This assertion contradicts known requirements for heavy bomber production. Assessment: propaganda statement intended to exaggerate American industrial capacity. Reliability: 0. But as more air crews were captured throughout late 1943, the same impossible story kept emerging. Pilots, navigators, bombardiers, and gunners from different bomb groups, different training bases, different regions of America all confirmed that women were building the B-17s in massive numbers. Some carried photographs of mothers, wives, or sisters working in aircraft factories. Others had personal letters describing factory work in detail. By November 1943, Luftwaffe intelligence could no longer dismiss the reports as propaganda. Colonel Hans Heinrich von Roden, commanding the historical section of the Luftwaffe General Staff, ordered a comprehensive review of all prisoner interrogations relating to American industrial production. The resulting classified report, titled Analysis of American Aircraft Manufacturing Personnel, documented a reality that German military leadership found deeply troubling. The report confirmed that women constituted approximately 40% of the American aircraft industry workforce by mid-1943. More disturbing to German analysts was the nature of the work these women performed. They weren't confined to simple assembly tasks. They were serving as welders, electricians, hydraulic specialists, and quality control inspectors. Some had advanced to supervisory positions overseeing entire production sections. German military doctrine, deeply influenced by National Socialist ideology about proper gender roles, held that women lacked the technical aptitude, physical strength, and mental discipline for precision industrial work. The regime had invested enormous resources in propaganda, emphasizing that German women's contribution to the war effort came through maintaining homes and bearing children for the fatherland. When German industry faced similar labor shortages, the response had been fundamentally different. Rather than training women for technical positions, Germany had relied on slave labor from conquered territories, forcing millions of prisoners and civilians into factory work. By 1943, approximately 7 million foreign workers, most working under brutal conditions, staffed German war industries. The German approach had seemed logical from their ideological perspective. Foreign slave laborers could be coerced into dangerous work without political consequences, while German women remained in traditional roles, supporting the ideology of Kinder, Küche, Kirche, children, kitchen, church. But the comparison with American production revealed a fatal flaw in this reasoning. American women workers were motivated volunteers, often with personal stakes in the war, husbands, brothers, sons fighting overseas. They received extensive training, proper equipment, and reasonable working conditions. The result was superior quality control and higher productivity. Slave laborers, by contrast, had every incentive to sabotage production and no motivation for quality work beyond avoiding punishment. Oberst Karl Bodenschatz, serving on Hermann Göring's staff, received the intelligence reports about American women workers with particular concern. His memorandum, dated December 12, 1943, preserved in captured Luftwaffe files, expressed the strategic implications. If the enemy has successfully mobilized its female population for technical war production, their industrial capacity exceeds our previous calculations by approximately 30%. Current Luftwaffe strength projections assume production parity by mid-1944. If American female industrial mobilization continues at documented rates, parity becomes impossible. German propaganda initially attempted to dismiss the reports as evidence of American desperation and social breakdown. Radio broadcasts mocked America for sending its women to do men's work and predicted that poorly built aircraft would fall from the skies. But Luftwaffe pilots fighting American bombers over Europe knew better. The B-17s kept coming in ever-increasing numbers, and their construction quality remained consistently high. Captured Luftwaffe pilots interrogated by American intelligence after being shot down frequently expressed shock upon seeing women working in aircraft factories when they were transported through industrial areas. One fighter pilot captured in March 1944 stated during his interrogation, "We were told the American bomber production quality was declining due to untrained workers, but every B-17 I engaged was perfectly maintained, perfectly flown. Now I see women building them. How is this possible?" The German military leadership had no good answer. Their ideological assumptions about gender roles had created a blind spot in their strategic thinking. They couldn't comprehend that America's willingness to fully mobilize its female population represented a decisive industrial advantage. By the time they recognized the implications, American bomber production had reached levels that made German defeat mathematically inevitable. Radio intercepts decoded by American signals intelligence revealed the growing German concern. A transmission from Luftwaffe High Command, dated February 3, 1944, stated, American monthly heavy bomber production now estimated at 2,400 aircraft. Previous estimates were 1,400. Revise interception capabilities accordingly. What the transmission didn't acknowledge was that nearly half those aircraft were being built by women, a fact that contradicted everything German military doctrine claimed about industrial warfare.
By January 1944, the transformation of American aircraft production had reached levels that defied German comprehension. Boeing's operations now extended beyond Seattle to new facilities in Wichita, Kansas, where an entirely new plant had been constructed in 18 months specifically to employ the region's female workforce. The Wichita facility, covering 2.3 million square feet, would ultimately produce 1,644 B-17s with a workforce that peaked at 29,795 employees, 62% of them women. Helen Rodriguez had been working as a seamstress in Wichita's garment district when Boeing's recruiting advertisements appeared in February 1943. The posters, now preserved in the National Archives, promised equal pay for equal work and featured bold graphics showing women operating industrial equipment. Rodriguez enrolled in the training program despite her husband's initial objections, motivated by the fact that her brother was serving as a bombardier in the 8th Air Force over Europe. Her personnel records documented trajectory that would have been impossible in pre-war America. March 1943, hired as basic assembly worker. June 1943, promoted to precision drilling specialist. September 1943, advanced to wing structure assembly lead woman. December 1943, selected for electrical systems training. By March 1944, Rodriguez was supervising a 45-person crew installing the complex electrical systems that powered everything from gun turrets to oxygen heaters, systems with over 150 miles of wiring per aircraft, requiring perfect insulation and connection integrity. The technical specifications Rodriguez's crew mastered would have challenged experienced peacetime electricians. The B-17's electrical system operated on a 24-volt DC system generated by two engine-driven generators producing 1,500 watts each. The wiring harnesses contained 1,566 individual circuits, each requiring proper gauge wire, correct routing through structural members, and precise termination at junction boxes. A single misconnected wire could cause system failures that would kill a crew at 25,000 feet over Germany. Quality control records from Wichita documented 0 electrical system failures attributed to manufacturing defects in aircraft completed by Rodriguez's crew during her tenure, a perfect record encompassing 187 B-17s delivered between March 1944 and May 1945. When German intelligence analyzed captured American bombers for manufacturing defects, they consistently found construction quality that exceeded their own Messerschmitt and Focke-Wulf production standards. The Douglas Aircraft Company's plant in Long Beach, California told a similar story of female technical achievement. Eleanor Patterson had been a mathematics teacher at Long Beach Polytechnic High School before joining Douglas in April 1942. Her mathematical background made her ideal for quality assurance work requiring statistical analysis and precision measurement. By November 1943, Patterson headed the final inspection team responsible for verifying that every system on completed B-17s met Army Air Force's specifications.
Her team used precision instruments to verify that wing diedral angles measured exactly 3 degrees, that control surface movements met exact specifications with tolerances measured in fractions of degrees, that fuel system pressures held within 2 psi of requirements, and that structural load tests confirmed airframe integrity. The inspection protocols Patterson's team enforced were more rigorous than anything German aircraft factories employed. Douglas records indicate that aircraft rejected for quality defects were completely disassembled, problems corrected, and then reassembled, even if this meant scrapping weeks of work. This uncompromising approach to quality resulted in American bombers that could sustain combat damage that would destroy German aircraft and still bring their crews home. German prisoner interrogations revealed a growing awareness of American production superiority. Lieutenant Klaus Hoffmann, a Messerschmitt Bf-110 pilot shot down in April 1944, stated during his debriefing, "We were told that American aircraft were inferior, built quickly by untrained workers, but I have engaged dozens of B-17s. Their construction is superb. Damage that would down our aircraft, they absorb and continue flying. How can factory women build better than our skilled craftsmen?" The answer lay in training methodology and motivation. American women workers received comprehensive technical education, modern equipment, and clear quality standards. They understood that the aircraft they built would protect their loved ones, fathers, husbands, sons, brothers fighting overseas. This personal investment created quality consciousness that no amount of slave labor coercion could match. By mid-1944, American industry was producing heavy bombers at rates that made German fighter production irrelevant. Boeing, Douglas, and Lockheed collectively delivered 8,685 B-17s in 1944, an average of 724 aircraft per month, with women constituting the majority of the workforce. Each bomber required 400,000 parts, 47 major assemblies, and 1,200 hours of labor. The women building them maintained a quality standard while achieving production speeds that military planners had considered impossible in 1941. Vera Brooks exemplified the skilled workforce that German planners had never anticipated. A former librarian from Pasadena, she became a hydraulic systems specialist at Douglas, mastering the complex assemblies that controlled landing gear, flaps, and brakes through pressurized fluid systems operating at 1,500 psi. Her technical manual knowledge was so comprehensive that engineers consulted her when troubleshooting prototype modifications. The Boeing plant in Seattle reached peak production in March 1944, delivering 362 B-17s that month, more heavy bombers than Germany's entire aircraft industry produced across all types. The women operating the production lines had become the world's most efficient aircraft manufacturers, achieving quality and quantity that the German military-industrial complex, built on ideology and slave labor, could never match. Statistical analysis by the War Production Board documented the achievement. American aircraft industry employment in 1944, 2.1 million workers. Women workers, 310,000, that's 35% of the aerospace workforce. Aircraft delivered in 1944, 96,318 across all types. B-17 specific production, 8,685 aircraft. Average defect weight was 1.2%, compared to Germany's rate of 4.7%. The numbers told a story of industrial transformation that had helped seal Germany's fate.
The Boeing plant in Seattle ceased B-17 production on April 13, 1945, as the war in Europe entered its final weeks. The last flying fortress built there, serial number 44-83868, carried signatures of the women workers who had assembled it, a tradition that had developed during the final production run. Among those signatures was that of Catherine Morrison, who had joined Boeing as a filing clerk in 1940 and finished the war as a section supervisor, overseeing 200 workers in wing assembly. The statistical achievement documented by the War Production Board told the story of an unprecedented industrial transformation. Between 1942 and 1945, American factories produced 12,731 B-17 flying fortresses. Women workers contributed to approximately 85% of these aircraft in significant technical roles. The combined hours worked by female aircraft industry employees exceeded 1.2 billion. 0 aircraft were lost due to manufacturing defects attributable to worker gender. But the numbers only hinted at the deeper transformation. Women who had operated riveting guns and hydraulic presses weren't willing to simply return to pre-war domesticity. Veterans Administration records from 1946 document extensive enrollment by former female aircraft workers in engineering programs funded by the GI Bill's lesser-known civilian equivalent. Ruth Anderson, the former teacher who became an oxygen systems expert, enrolled at the University of Washington's Engineering School in September 1946, graduating in 1950 as one of the first women to earn a mechanical engineering degree from that institution. The German perspective on the American transformation evolved dramatically in the post-war years. During the Nuremberg trials, American prosecutors presented evidence of Nazi Germany's failure to mobilize female technical workers as an example of how ideology had undermined military effectiveness. Albert Speer's testimony acknowledged that this failure had cost Germany approximately 30% of potential war production capacity. Former Luftwaffe officers, interviewed by military historians in the 1950s and 1960s, consistently identified American female industrial mobilization as among the factors they had most seriously underestimated. General Lieutenant Adolf Galland, the famous fighter ace who commanded the Luftwaffe's fighter forces, stated in a 1954 interview, "We calculated American production based on traditional industrial models. We never imagined they would successfully train hundreds of thousands of women to perform precision technical work. This miscalculation meant we always underestimated the bomber formations we would face. By the time we understood their true production capacity, the war was already lost." The immediate post-war period saw attempts to return women workers to traditional roles, but the transformation proved irreversible. A Department of Labor study from 1947 found that 75% of former female aircraft workers sought to remain in technical employment. Many faced discrimination and reduced opportunities, but they had proved their capabilities in the most demanding circumstances imaginable. Helen Rodriguez, who had progressed from seamstress to electrical systems supervisor, refused to leave technical work. She became an electrician with Wichita's Municipal Power Company in 1946, fighting a 3-year legal battle to join the union that had previously excluded women. Her case, Rodriguez v. Local 304 IBEW, established legal precedent that helped open skilled trades to women. She worked as a master electrician until her retirement in 1978. The Boeing Company, recognizing the capabilities of its wartime workforce, became one of the first major aerospace firms to actively recruit female engineers in the 1950s. Company archives document that this decision was directly influenced by executives' observations of female technical performance during the war. By 1960, Boeing employed 127 female engineers, a small percentage of total engineering staff, but revolutionary for the era. The women who built B-17s transformed not just aircraft production, but American society's understanding of women's capabilities. Dorothy Hughes, who had installed Norden bomb sights with precision that amazed military inspectors, became an optical engineer at Kodak in 1947. Eleanor Patterson, the quality assurance chief, joined Douglas Aircraft's engineering staff and contributed to the development of the DC-8 commercial jetliner. There Brooks, the hydraulic systems specialist, earned a doctorate in mechanical engineering and taught at MIT. The annual reunions of Boeing's wartime workers, held from 1975 until 2010, brought together the women who had built the weapons that helped win World War II. At the 50th anniversary reunion in 1995, 847 former female workers attended, sharing memories of the transformation they had experienced and created. Their photographs, preserved in Boeing's archives, show elderly women wearing commemorative jackets identifying their wartime roles: Rosie the Riveter, Wing Assembly 1943, Electrical Systems Lead Woman. The final B-17 reunion occurred in 2019, attended by 7 surviving women workers, the youngest age 94. Their recorded testimonies, preserved by the Smithsonian Institution, emphasize both pride in their accomplishments and frustration that their contributions were initially forgotten in post-war narratives that emphasized male combat heroism while minimizing female industrial achievement. Today, the Museum of Flight in Seattle maintains a restored B-17 alongside an exhibit documenting the women who built these aircraft. Visitors can see original training manuals, personnel records, and photographs showing women performing every technical role in B-17 production. The exhibit includes a video compilation of German prisoner interrogations expressing disbelief that women could produce such sophisticated weapons. Testimony to prejudices that contributed to the Third Reich's defeat. The women who built B-17s proved that industrial capability transcends gender, that technical skill can be taught rapidly when necessity demands it, and that a society willing to fully mobilize all its citizens possesses decisive advantages over societies constrained by ideology. The streams of bombers that filled European skies from 1943 to 1945 represented not just American industrial might, but a social revolution that German leadership never understood until defeat made the lesson undeniable.